demonstrations by the movement representing Nigeria's Shiite minority turned violent in the capital. In the southern United States, a museum and memorial for peace and justice remembers the victims of lynching. And a Kenyan hyper-realist artist leads the genre in Africa. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. We begin our broadcast tonight in northeastern Nigeria, where at least 4 people were killed late Thursday in an attack by the Boko Haram terrorist group, according to the National Emergency Agency. It's the second such clash in Maiduguri in a month. Security agencies say 5 suicide bombers were also killed in the attack, which was repelled by Nigerian military troops supported by the Air Force. The signs of battle were still clear on Friday, with the charred body of a man among the tents in a camp for people displaced by conflict. Blasts and gunfire were heard by residents in the city, which is also the capital of Borno State. Hundreds of residents who fled the area during the fighting Thursday night were seen returning home on Friday. In Nigeria's capital, demonstrations by the movement representing the country's Shia minority turned violent this month. And as Chika Odua reports from Abuja, the tensions show no sign of letting up.
The Islamic movement of Nigeria has demonstrated daily in Abuja since mid-January. They say they will not stop until their leader, Ibrahim Zakzaki, is released. The State Security Service has defied a court order to free him.
Today is more than about 1 year, 7 months after the court judgment, but the government is still keeping mute. They refuse him medication, and they refuse to free him, and they even refuse to tell Nigerians why they are keeping him in their custody. So that is why we are protesting.
Police have recently sought to stop the protest, leading to violence and arrest. Demonstrators shared cell phone footage with VOA. 18-year-old IMN member Nusubat Umar says police grabbed her during a protest April 23rd. Her brother was injured in a protest the week before.
Maybe the hand have break. We don't know. But now we are ready to carry her to the hospital for X-ray.
Shiites are a minority within Nigeria's Muslim community. Many live in the outskirts of the Nigerian capital, clustered in neighborhoods where there is poor infrastructure. The IMN says the government has repressed Shiites for decades and blocked their religious gatherings. A December 2015 encounter with the military killed more than 300 IMN members. Rights groups have called on Nigeria to release Zakzaki.
Amnesty International has received evidence in the latest crackdown against IMN protesters, where we actually saw that police used live bullets, water cannons, and even tear gas on peaceful protesters.
Police have not responded to the accusations. The daily demonstrations have revived suspicion of the group.
I have met them before, and it was not friendly because they block the road when they are on their procedure. They block the road for hours.
They have no direction. They have not been able to convince the entire nation, their main focus, their ambition, where they are coming from and where they are going to.
The IMN says it will not give up.
We are practicing religion. The Sheikh is our religious leader. He is our religious leader, and we are ready to die in order for the cause of what we are doing, because we...
Chika Odua in Abuja for VOA News.
In Kenya, the deaths of at least 15 people is being blamed on an unusually long and heavy rainy season. The torrential rains has caused Kenya's longest river to overflow from its banks, pouring water into villages and farms. The Red Cross says the National Police on Thursday rescued flood victims in the Tana River Delta wetlands. At least 24,000 people have been displaced and more than 1,000 are still marooned in the Tana River County, where close to 70% of the area has been flooded. Several major highways have been cut off, stranding commuters for hours, while businesses across the country are also being affected by the heavy rains. Kenya's Meteorological Department says the heavy rains and floods are expected to continue for the next several days. Now, for more on the Kenyan floods, journalist Abdi Malik Hajar joins me by phone from the town of Garissa. Good evening, Abdi.
Good evening to you.
Yes, so can you describe for us how the floods have affected people in your area, in that part of the country?
Well, many people along the river have been have now been rendered homeless due to the overflowing of River Tana. And this has affected many people, although we don't have the exact number of people who have been affected so far. But and according to our estimation, is over thousands of people have now been rendered homeless. Some of them are now living some at the primary schools, and these primary schools have now become their homes because their belongings, their food, everything have now been submerged by the overflowing water of the Tana River.
Yes. Now, we saw some very dramatic rescue videos on the Delta, rather Tana Delta. What has been the effect in other parts other than just along River Tana? Now that the rains are countrywide, what have you seen?
Well, the similar situation is also witnessed in some other parts of the country, and still some of areas people are marooned inside their homes and they are unable even to come out. But there's a rescue mission going on now by Kenya Red Cross and also other government agencies. Red Cross is also using some kind of a boat to rescue people to safety and to higher ground. Still similar flood situations also witnessed in other parts of the country, and the government is also using police choppers and also military are also involved in rescue operations to make sure people are to make sure there's no death in this flood.
Yes. Now, indeed, we can see those images of the police helicopters helping people. But in terms of other forms of help for those who have been rendered homeless, those who have been evacuated, what are you seeing? What is the government doing?
Well, today, government officials led by our senior minister, senior cabinet secretary, that is Eugene Wamalwa, and other leaders from where I am today in Garissa, they came and they assured that the government is determined to make sure no one dies because of flood. And they promised more help. The minister was categorical that he's going back to Nairobi and inform the president of our current situation that's ongoing in Garissa. And what he promised is he said there is enough food, the government has enough food to make sure everyone has enough ration. And he also said he's going to sit with other cabinet ministers, including the one of the Treasury and also education, because most schools have can't, they cannot operate because of now some of them are marooned, some of them now is at home.
Thank you very much. In fact, we hope nobody dies, nobody loses their lives. Abdi Malik Hajar is a journalist based in the Kenyan town of Garissa. Now, in South Africa, residents in the drought-hit city of Cape Town witnessed the first winter downpour in months. Heavy overnight rains have caused severe flooding across the city. These are scenes that few residents could have imagined just a few months ago, as overflowing rivers blocked roads and caused traffic disruptions. Impoverished neighborhoods were the worst hit. Officials say about 2,000 people and 578 structures were affected by the flooding. More rain is expected Friday tonight. City authorities hope the rainfall will help replenish dams dried by the region's worst drought in a century, a dry spell that has scorched farms and hit the city's tourism sector. Well, a jury in Pennsylvania has found U.S. comic actor Bill Cosby guilty of sexual assault. Following the verdict, his victims shed tears of relief and celebrated victory for all the women who have been sexually abused. His chief accuser, former basketball player Andrea Constant, first brought a civil case against Cosby 13 years ago. His defense team claims the celebrity actor is a victim of a smear campaign. VOA's Laritza Hoke reports.
Thursday marked the inglorious end of the once charismatic TV dad Bill Cosby, best known for his long-running Bill Cosby Show. The 80-year-old comedian was found guilty on all 3 counts of sexual assault, each carrying a potential 10 years in prison. Cosby's accuser, actress Lily Bernard, praised the jury, but acknowledged the verdict is a blow for many young men who admired Cosby's father image.
But I looked at that jury, there's this one young black man on that jury who I looked upon as my son, and I know the disappointment that he felt in looking at a beloved black male iconic father figure and being able to yet render a guilty verdict.
Gloria Allred, the lawyer representing more than 30 of Cosby's accusers, said Thursday's verdict is a victory for all abused women who have not been able to fight and prove abuse in the past.
It's been a very long journey, but this is an historic result. This was her story. Not his story, not history, but the story of her. The story of Andrea Constant. The story of all of those who took that risk against a rich, powerful, famous man, took the risk of being denigrated publicly, took the risk of being sued for what they said because he had the resources to do it.
Cosby's defense attorney said the actor's encounters with women were consensual.
We are very disappointed by the verdict. We don't think Mr. Cosby's guilty of anything, and the fight is not over. Thank you. Are you going to appeal, sir? Yes. Yes. Yes, very strongly.
A number of other women alleged Cosby gave them drugs and assaulted or molested them in their youth, but their cases were too old to go to court. His first trial in June 2017, also brought by Constant, ended in a mistrial. Cosby will await his sentence in freedom. Laritza Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, on a grassy 6-acre hill overlooking the southern U.S. city of Montgomery, Alabama, is a new memorial that is the first in America to recognize the victims of racial terrorism and lynching. Founded by the Equal Justice Initiative, a nonprofit organization working in marginalized and impoverished communities, the group hopes the memorial and the Legacy Museum will help change the national narrative about race. VOA's Ken Farabaugh covered the opening day activities.
She had traveled to Alabama all the way from California to be here for this moment, and had managed to get in line early to secure one of the sold-out opening day tickets that gave her access to the Legacy Museum. So it was a surprise to Asoke Femi that the hardest part of her day was putting into words what she had just witnessed.
My experience in there is that it's so painful.
Built on the site of a slave warehouse in Montgomery, once the epicenter of the slave trade in the United States, the Legacy Museum, from enslavement to mass incarceration, is filled with exhibits that serve as a catalyst for understanding what blacks in the United States have historically endured.
5,000 blacks were lynched between 1880 and 1940.
Civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson was an early supporter of the museum and the nearby National Memorial for Peace and Justice, an expansive monument and park that honors the victims of lynching and brings the reality of slavery's legacy out of the shadows.
We must face the truth of our origins. We are a post-genocidal, post-slavery, post-Jim Crow society.
But not a post-racial society, says Mark Potok, former senior fellow with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
You know, it is white people in this country, and in the South in particular, who are so averse to, facing the past squarely.
Potok says racism and bigotry, particularly in the state that now hosts this museum and memorial, are not yet consigned to the history books.
A very short time ago, the majority of white people in Alabama voted to keep segregated schools in the state constitution.
Jackson believes the biggest barrier to progress today is the one that keeps people from the ballot box.
There are 4 million blacks in the South unregistered to vote.
and that in many ways that's the way forward. You know, it's not beating up white supremacists in the streets of Charlottesville. You know, it is really changing the people who represent us.
Isoke Femi, still reeling from her walk through the images and displays that deal with powerful and uncomfortable truths, sees hope in the crowds around her.
The love that it took to do this, the commitment, the courage, and the fact that everybody's here, that it's not just something that black people are coming to. Everybody, even if they couldn't form the words, they couldn't say the words, they want the healing. They want the healing of America. They want their hearts to be set free.
Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Montgomery, Alabama.
What you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends also. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now coming up, the funky sounds of Ivorian artist Manu Gallo. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
Wicked crickets are an odd thing to buy at a store, or maybe you'd like to try a basil-flavored soft drink. Welcome to the so-called world's first startup supermarket located in Berlin, where shelves are lined with all kinds of test products created from new entrepreneurs. Ola Kleckner is the co-founder of the testing store. She says the whole concept is to make the products better known, but also to use smart research and data to see who buys what products. Imagine real roses that last 3 years. Customer Victoria Albrecht likes the store idea. She says, I'm definitely going to try products that I haven't tried before. I really like to try new things. The test store opened in March 2018 with 200 products, giving people a chance to sort of shortcut the long road to success in the very competitive retail market. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Well, it's Music Makers Friday, and today we return to the music of Ivorian artist Manu Gallo. She has a new release called ABJ Groove, featuring American funk legend Bootsy Collins. Here to tell us more about the artist and her music is VOA Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell. Welcome back.
Thank you, Vincent.
Yes. First, you actually had the privilege of meeting with this lady in Brussels.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about...
She lives in Brussels, and I was there last September.
Yes.
Met her, and she was talking about working with Bootsy Collins and preparing for this single that she's just released in the music video.
Is it in her style, or this was an experimental thing?
It was an experimental thing. She is an amazing bass player, very groovy, very funky. And that's how Bootsy Collins discovered her. Because she decided, look, I'm really good, I want to show my stuff off. And she got in front of YouTube and did this thing on the bass.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And Bootsy somehow saw that on YouTube and contacted her and said, you're awesome. And so they started working together.
Yeah, she is playing with somebody who is great, who has also played some great in the history of America. Our executive producer, Keith Wallace, just told me that Bootsy Collins played with James Brown.
Yes.
So that's quite some
Yes, that's how he got his start, with James Brown, and then the amazing funk group, Parliament Funkadelic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So why don't we watch this piece, ABJ?
Abidjan.
Abidjan.
Yeah.
That's it, Abidjan, standing for the capital,
capital
of Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
So let's watch this.
Okay.
Abidjan.
Beginning, baby. You got lead in the water, bleeding on the brain, contamination, down in the inside. The more I drink it, the less I feel. Ah, the bigger the headache, the bigger the pill, baby.
Some amazing footwork there.
Yeah, can you do that?
Yeah, maybe when I grow up. And the blend is amazing because of the kind of having this infusion of a really heavy African culture and artifacts and all that.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a real blend. It's a re-meeting of funk from the U.S. and African traditional groove. And you can see that throughout the whole video, this merging of the two. It's just a beautiful.
So yeah, initially I just forgot that ABJ stood for Abidjan Groove, so bringing Abidjan and American funk together.
Yes,
it's amazing. And so, what is our next move? Is she going to be having more collaborations?
Well, yeah, but this was the one collaboration with Bootsy in her album, which is going to be released in September. And she has different, a lot of other artists that are going to be collaborating on different songs. But she also was featured on Bootsy's album that was released last year.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
My
sharing
pleasure.
with us. Well, that's Heather Maxwell, and we want to thank her for another great Music Maker segment. To learn more about Heather Maxwell and VOA radio show, visit Facebook and type in the keywords Music Time in Africa, and you can see what time our program can be heard in your area and get more information about some of our featured artists. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a Kenyan artist who knows how to keep it real. We'll be right back. Thank you, Heather.
In Nigeria, at least 4 people were killed in an attack by Boko Haram militants in the northeastern city of Maiduguri. In Madagascar, anti-government protests continue for 6 days now. Lawmakers lodged a complaint against the president and the government after a deadly crackdown on Saturday's protest. In Kenya, seasonal rains bring diseases such as cholera and malaria to the Dadaab refugee camp, housing 235,000 mainly Somali refugees. In Cameroon, the tourism sector is struggling after almost 2 years of unrest in parts of the Anglophone region of the country. Finally, in Zimbabwe, after 16 years in self-imposed exile, Thomas Mapfumo, one of Zimbabwe's most popular and outspoken musicians, has returned home.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. In Britain, some of the world's biggest and most popular brands of food, drink and cleaning products have agreed to work together to tackle plastic pollution. 42 businesses, including Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Birds Eye and Nestle, are promising to reduce packaging and increase recycling. The companies have also all signed a plastic pact, agreeing that by 2025, they will eliminate unnecessary single-use plastic packaging, ensure that 100% of plastic packaging is reusable, recyclable, or compostable. It pledges that 70% should be recycled or composted, and 30% of all plastics should be from recycled material. Well, next up, Clevis Odhiambo spends most of his time inside his 2-bedroom apartment located on Nairobi's Pangani Estate. The 22-year-old Bachelor of Art Design graduate from the University of Nairobi has perfected the art of painting on canvas to come up with extremely realistic pieces. Odhiambo began painting at age 14 but has been focusing on photorealism for the last 4 years. To continually improve his ability, he learns additional skills from globally renowned artists via YouTube. Hyperrealism and photorealism are relatively new to Africa. Their roots stem from the US and Europe in the late 1960s. Odhiambo sells his work worldwide to countries including Ghana, Uganda, Australia, the US, and the European Union. And finally, Indonesians are known for their love of cheap street food. Now, as part of Jakarta's Smart City Initiative, city officials are, for the first time, compiling an exhaustive digital database of street vendors in the capital. The database will make it easier for residents to order street food online, irrespective of the vendor's location. It also includes a food safety certification to inform customers that the registered street foods are safe to eat and have fulfilled the city's health regulations. The city has also turned to Porter, an on-demand delivery service that connects customers to their favorite local businesses. And that's what's trending today. Well, Muslims who are traveling and looking for a place to pray can now turn to their smartphones for help. A mobile app called Islamic GPS helps users find mosques around the world. VOA's Deborah Block has more about this helpful technology.
For Muslims who want to pray in a city they don't know, the Islamic GPS app can direct them to the nearest mosque. A few clicks and the directions pop up. Iqbal Hussein, the London-based developer, came up with the idea while visiting Istanbul, Turkey.
I went to Istanbul, and as I was traveling, I was looking for places to pray. Because I'm quite new to the city, it was quite hard to find. And because of the low language barrier, took me time to find it. So I thought myself, why not create places to pray?
Islamic GPS has about 50,000 users, mostly from Indonesia, but also from the United States and the United Kingdom.
You have your religion, I guess, in your pocket.
The app is a useful tool for people to connect with Islam in the modern world, says Arfa Farouk, who belongs to a Muslim tech meetup group in London.
One of the reasons, in a way, I guess Muslims kind of embrace it is because it enables them in this life that we have, which is so busy, to kind of, constantly try and improve themselves as a Muslim as they go day to day, living life.
For people who can only dream of the mosques they want to visit, Hussein plans to include virtual reality technology as part of the app.
For example, you want to see a mosque, say, in Malaysia. There's a China that they saw old mosque, about 100 years old mosque there. You can't visit it, but you can at least able to view on the VR headset.
For some Muslims, Islamic GPS could be the answer to their prayers. Deborah Block, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Oh, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.
You're right.